In a perfect world, homeschooling would be linear. It would follow the same pattern day after day after day after day. But in my short 3 years of homeschooling, it has rarely ever been like that. You know, all of nature has seasons: spring, fall, summer, winter. And it's the same way in homeschooling, where there are different seasons of homeschooling, and each season has to be met with flexibility and creativity, and sometimes difficult decisions have to be made in those seasons to accommodate for what is happening in our life in that moment. And that is what I want to be talking about with you today in this video: how we have approached the different seasons in homeschooling and what that has required of us. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Rosalind Yukic. Welcome back to my channel. If you've never been here before, I am a second-generation homeschooling mom living in Croatia. I have two boys. I have a 12-year-old who is currently in the 5th grade, and I have a 10-year-old who is currently in the 3rd grade. And today I am talking about the different seasons of homeschooling. Now, I am a homeschooling mom with chronic illness. And so that often requires me to assess what's happening in our life right now, in our home right now, and then make adjustments that fit with what is happening. And ironically, this year, God gave me the word, be still. And I have it on a mug. I just got this beautiful bracelet for my sister that is stamped with be still. So I have constant reminders of, you know, pulling back, assessing, not allowing that to cause stress in our home. And so I have a lot that I want to say on the subject, but before we get there, I just want to say that this video is in collaboration with Yasmin from Mommy on the Move. And I am so excited to have found her channel. I am a new follower. I have thrown several of her videos into a folder because I'm definitely going to be binging through her channel. She is a mom of 4 kids, and I am just so excited to get to know her a little bit more. And I want to invite you to also get to know her and her channel. You can find a link in the description box below, as well as a link to the collab, because there are a few moms who are also going to be chiming in on this subject. And so you are definitely going to want to check those out. I have to say that as a mom who regularly has to pull back and assess where we are and make adjustments that that sort of fit our situations, being able to see what other moms are saying on this subject is super important, because it helps me to maybe approach these decisions from a different perspective. And we need that. We really do need to look at what others are doing. Sometimes we can really get honed in and really stuck in our own box and sort of, you know, approach decisions from the same way every time until we hear someone else talk about what they've done in a similar situation, and it shines a light on a whole different perspective. And that's why I like to do these collabs, and it's also why I like to go back and listen to what other people are saying, because we sort of need those different perspectives. So talking about homeschooling in different seasons of life. Now, as I said in my intro, I am a second-generation homeschool mom. I was homeschooled. We won't talk about how many years ago it was. I will just say that when my parents began homeschooling in the United States was still relatively unknown by most people. It's been a long time ago. And there was one point, I was a senior in high school, and I have 2 siblings, by the way, and all 3 of us were homeschooled. And when I was a senior in high school, we moved from Olympia, Washington to Portland, Oregon. And my parents put their house on the market, anticipating that it was going to take a while for it to sell. So in the meantime, because my dad, who is a pastor, had taken on a new pastorate in Portland, we were sort of commuting back and forth. But the house in Olympia sold much quicker than what they anticipated. And suddenly we were without a house, because we hadn't bought a house in Portland yet. We were still looking, and hadn't really found what we wanted. So a kind family loaned us a fifth wheel where we lived in for several months before finding a house and moving in to our new house. In the meantime, a new school year started. My siblings are both younger than me, and my parents had to ask themselves, are we able realistically to homeschool this year? Because we're house hunting, we've taken on a new church. My mother became the secretary by default, and so she was in a sense employed for the first time since we were very, very young, since my brother had been a toddler. And so there was a lot of new things that were happening in our life at that moment, way too much to be able to handle, plus homeschooling. And so they made the decision to enroll my sister and brother in a private school. I didn't want to attend a private school. It was my senior year. I just wanted to finish out at home. I was doing a Becca at that point, and so it was very easy for them to just give me what I needed to do. I was a senior, so I was able to really just be self-directed, and that's sort of how we handled that situation, how they handled that situation. And so one of the things that is super important to remember is that no decision for your child's education has to be a permanent decision. Just because you have decided to homeschool doesn't mean that if you come to a season like how my parents encountered, that decision has to be permanent. It's like, well, we've decided to homeschool, so we just have to make do. You don't have to make do. You can make a short-term decision to do something else. And that decision doesn't have to be permanent either. And so after that year, they brought my brother and sister back home, and they finished out their high school years at home. And so that is, I think, one thing that we always need to keep in mind, is that no decision has to be a permanent decision. There may be times when we have to make an executive decision that is best for our children in that moment. Even though homeschooling long-term may be best for them, for the short term, what might be best for them is to just enroll them in a public or private school for just that short term. And so in our family, because of my chronic illness, there are times that I do have to pull back and I have to assess. And I talked about that in a previous video of 10 things that totally count as school. There are sometimes I just have to be super flexible with what we're doing, because the health issues that I face on a day-to-day basis sometimes really require us to sort of pull back. And I love it that this year God gave me the word be still, because it's not really in my nature to pull back and to ease up. In my nature, it's all about nose to the grindstone. Let's just keep going. Let's just press on. Let's press through. But this year, God gave me the word be still. And I talked about that actually in a previous video. And both of these videos that I've mentioned will also be in the description box below. You can check those out. But I have that on a mug. I also, my sister gave me a stamped bracelet for my birthday this year, all as a reminder of be still. My shirt, there's beauty in simplicity. I wore this on purpose this day today for this video, to remind myself that being simple, being still, sometimes pulling back, making a decision that I wouldn't ordinarily make because of the season of life that we're in is so important. And we encountered a season like that in our second year of homeschooling. And it was very difficult. We had just started the school year, and I was approaching the school year with so much promise and so much gusto. And then my husband's father, he was ill, and his health took a sharp downturn, and he unexpectedly passed away. And it was very, very difficult. And so we had to pack up all of our stuff and go down and spend a week with my mother-in-law and help with the funeral preparations and all of that. And me, in my typical way, it was like, well, let's just bring all of our homeschool stuff with us. We're probably going to have a lot of downtime while we're there, while my husband and his siblings were taking care of a lot of the arrangements, and so we'll just do school, not really taking into account of how this was affecting my children. Thankfully, I could see that they were really deeply struggling with the loss of their grandfather. And we ended up not doing school at all. I think we pulled out our books once and did one subject. And then it was like, you know something? This is a season of life. It's not forever. This is a time that I think we need to spend just investing in one another, just being together, comforting each other, and comforting grandma, and comforting our daddy and his brothers, and being with family. And there are times, difficult seasons in life, when we need to make that decision to let's just cancel everything and let's just do what is best for the whole family. And what was best at that season was to just stop and be together. And when we came back, we eased back in. We didn't just hit the books the minute we came home, because my children were grieving. I was grieving. My husband was grieving. And so we just needed to sort of ease back in. And so we eased in with the core subjects, math, Bible, and language arts. And then we slowly began to reintroduce subjects back in until we were doing a full school day. What's really helped with this is our decision to do year-round homeschooling. And so we don't have a specific start date, and we don't have a specific finish date. We will start school where we left off, and then we just continue to doing school. There are sometimes that we have planned breaks, and there are sometimes when we have unplanned breaks because life happens. The nice thing is that once we hit our required number of school days, which is 180 school days, then we're done. And then we can take a break for however long we feel like is necessary. I'm not necessarily in favor of long breaks, breaks that are any longer than 2 to 3 weeks, because my children tend to get super bored and they want to gravitate towards their devices. They also tend to sometimes forget the things that they've learned. And so going back and doing review can sometimes be really arduous. And so I find that breaks of just 2 to 3 weeks, the maximum, is best for us. And then we come back and we just pick up where we left off. And so doing the year-round homeschooling really allows us to approach the different seasons, whether it's connected with my chronic illness, whether it's the fact that since COVID hit the world, we've had it twice, or just different things that happen in life, a loss in the family, or my husband getting unexpected time off, whatever it could be. It doesn't have to be a difficult thing. It can be a super happy thing. And but just like how nature follows seasons, and just how all of nature sort of just follows that pattern, that ebb and flow, and adjusts accordingly, that's how we need to approach our homeschooling as well. And we need to approach it with a peaceful heart, with an assuredness inside of the decision that we are making, even though we may be making that decision a little bit with shaky knees, knowing that God is going to give us the wisdom to do what is best for our children, what is best for our family in that moment, and then just readjust as that season comes to its end and a new season begins. And so I hope that this video has encouraged you. I hope that it has given you some confidence in what you're doing as a homeschool mom, remembering that God has given you this calling, and with that calling is going to come a divine wisdom in how to walk out that calling that you have, and knowing that as the mom of your children, God is going to show you what is best for them and the decisions that are going to be most positively impactful for their life, for their education, for their future. And so I hope that you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out the links below. Be sure to check out Mommy on the Move and the playlist that goes along with this collaboration. Also, the videos that I mentioned are linked down below, so be sure to check those out as well. And I will see you in the next video. Bye. Okay. My cat is getting a little crazy over there. I think he scared himself. Did it scare you? I know. It was a little startling, wasn't it?